1 year ago, I unboxed the DJI RSC-2, a powerful and lightweight gimbal that unfolds in seconds to reveal a workhorse stabilizer capable of so much more than the size suggests. And since that day, the RSC-2 has been with me in numerous configurations and on countless adventures. And 12 months later, this is still my gimbal of choice. Here is why. So check this out. I actually went through my archives, and it was actually last month, 6 years ago, that I got my very first handheld gimbal, and it was a DJI Ronin M. So it's pretty crazy just how things have progressed in that time. But I actually got this DJI RSC-2 when it first came out about a year ago. And in that, I have a full review if you want to go check that out. But it's amazing just in that year of using this, how many things go from just cool features to things that I don't want to live without because I start using them and relying on them so often. So I want to show you guys just how this gimbal has gone from another cool tool in my gimbal closet to something that is absolutely amazing and the first thing that I pack when I'm getting ready for a new shoot. So let's break down this hardware a little bit, because if you're like me, you're shooting with a gimbal like crazy, these design features can start making a massive difference in your workflow. So the first for me is that this thing completely folds down. And I mean, you can just release this switch right here. This entire gimbal can fold into just 7.5 inches of space. So if you want to throw this inside your camera bag or inside the case that it came with, a small backpack, it is incredibly possible to do all of that with this. And if you want to just hang it on a tripod strap in the back, you can lock this up and keep it in a more traditional workflow, and it works perfectly well. Also, this release mechanism for this folding design also serves for the underslung mode. So if you want to get this incredibly close to the ground, it is so easy. You can just release this latch, unfold this again, and you can get this thing incredibly low to the ground for some really cool shots. This also has literally my favorite quick release system ever invented. So you can actually go, this is Arca Swiss right here with a Manfrotto plate, and you can disconnect either one of them. But look how easy it is to just pull the camera off, reconnect it if you need to. Everything is set in there. I've actually bought 3 of these because I use it for everything now. It also keeps a nice little spacing in between these lenses and the actual tripod plate. So if you're someone who's using smaller mirrorless camera with a giant lens, that's no issue. The spacer is built into these, and it's just so easy to adjust. So this is definitely my favorite quick release mechanism right here. Also, one thing that's really cool is if you're using larger cameras or even smaller cameras actually, this entire bottom bar is completely adjustable. So you can scoot the camera closer or further away as you need to. Here's why this is so important. One is you can actually accommodate some really big cameras like this Panasonic S1H that you wouldn't think would work in a gimbal this size. So it really gives you a ton of flexibility on this. You also have full NATO mounts on both sides of this gimbal. So adding accessories is really easy. I've even added this accessory right here for a back arm. So you can actually hold this right here, which is kind of my preferred mechanism, and control everything just like that. I really love this configuration on here. And you have a full 1-inch screen on the back that you can use to customize absolutely everything. So you don't need to pull out your phone. So if you're like me and you're at a wedding, you don't want to pull out your phone in the middle of the wedding to change all your settings. You can do it all from this rear LCD screen. And let's talk about battery life. So this is one of those gimbals that I can shoot a 12-hour wedding, keep the gimbal powered on almost the entire time, and literally come away with my back ready to shatter, my feet falling off. And this gimbal has 20 to 30% battery life. So if you're somebody who needs all-day battery life, this is one of the few gimbals that will actually pull it off. Plus it has 18-watt fast charging, so you can actually go and power this up to 100% in just an hour and a half, which is pretty amazing. And it's not like these are all the features on this gimbal. These are literally just my favorites that really start separating this gimbal from others on the market. Now, when it comes to actual stabilization, you'd probably think that most gimbals are pretty similar to each other. In theory, they should be, but that's not always the case. And there's two big issues I have a lot with gimbals that the DJI RSC-2 has really started solving for me. And the first is with acceleration. And really when you're starting to get these slower and want these smooth moves, this is the issue that most of them have. So with acceleration, even when you turn down the speeds, they just are really jerky when moving into something. This gimbal is incredibly smooth. So DJI has upgraded the Titan image stabilization system inside of this. There are Titan algorithms on it, and it is so effective. So even when you have this thing turned down very low, it is just incredibly smooth when going into and coming out of these moves. The second thing that I have is these micro jitters that can occur, especially with longer lenses on this. And there's two ways that this gimbal really solves them. The first is that these motors are crazy powerful. So even with this heavy lens setup like this, you can just knock the crap out of this and it really is no issue for it. Even with like a 24-70 lens, I can start wider and then zoom in, and this gimbal can still handle those movements for me. The other thing is a feature called Super Smooth, which if you're shooting especially with longer focal lengths, can really make a difference ironing out those little tiny micro jitters that you would get, especially if you got some pretty crazy bumps going on, like if you're shooting out of a car or something like that. There are also some pretty crazy features on this that really start to stand out to you the more you use them. And sure, it has a lot of those baseline gimbal features like panoramas and being able to shoot time lapses and even force mobile for controlling the entire gimbal from your phone. But there are two really standout features. One is the Raven Eye system, which is actually comes standard on the Pro Kit, and I have attached right here. And this allows you to plug your camera HDMI out into this system, which wirelessly sends a 1080p signal to your phone so you can remotely monitor this entire feed from your camera. There's two ways that this is actually really cool. So first, you can use this with Force Mobile to not only control the actual gimbal, but also to see the image coming through. And the other is a feature called subject tracking, where you can literally put a box around your subject and the gimbal will automatically track the subject for you. And I actually talked about this in a video I just made about how to make your gimbal moves not look like traditional gimbal moves. This is a really cool feature. I've started to use it all the time, and the more I use it, the more in love with it I am. Also a feature called waypoints, which allows you to remotely program in moves that the gimbal will execute. And I'm talking about with speeds, stop points, all of that programmed in. And you can execute these from your phone, not being behind the gimbal at all. And this is fully repeatable. So if you're in a situation where you can't be behind the gimbal or just want these perfect program moves, this gimbal can pull it off, which is a really cool feature. Another big feature you don't usually find is that this front dial on here is fully customizable. So if you're somebody who uses manual focus lenses and you get the Pro Kit, this does come with a full follow focus system, so you can use it and actually control the follow focus system remotely with this front dial right here. But if you're someone like me and you don't really use a follow focus system all that often, then you can actually reprogram this to do a lot of different things, from your roll to being able to control your ISO and camera features. So it's extremely programmable on here. But my favorite feature is going to be the mode dials on this. So typically a gimbal has a way of changing it from like pan follow mode to full follow to a lock mode and everything like that. So this has the exact same thing. However, when you change between the mode dials, you can actually control exactly what modes this executes. So you have 3 different choices on here. So you can execute between mode 1, mode 2, and mode 3. But every time you do that, it executes a custom set of parameters that you can set in the gimbal, even right here from the screen, the 1-inch screen on the back, you can program these. and fully customize the speed at which these different modes will execute in. And I cannot tell you how helpful this is if you're going from like shooting a wedding and you want to shoot something slow to being able to go into some kind of a different pan follow mode with the speeds very high. You can do that just by clicking a mode dial, even executing like 3D rolls or the portrait modes or anything like that. You can do all of that straight from this gimbal right through the mode dial. And for me, that was just life-changing. I do have some links in the description to the different kits that this will be available in, so you can definitely check those out if you want to pick this up. And then also the full reviews for the DJI RS2 and RSC-2 and some comparisons between them. So hit those up in the description. If you have any questions, guys, definitely let me know in the comments. I'll be down there answering your questions on that. Hope you guys are doing amazing. Got some really cool stuff coming up. Please subscribe and like if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon in a new video.